Hi, today is Wednesday, March 29th, 2023. I'm Raven Dana, and this is Class 2 of the Dream Keeper Circle class series. So, what a long, strange day this has been so far. It is about 9 o'clock as I record this for you, and I started out doing this about 1 in the afternoon, so it's been interesting. I have noticed that when days get complicated, that often the people around me, my clients, my friends, relatives, also have odd, strange days. So this is part of the conversation of dreaming and how things rise from the vast unconscious that we're all connected to. That it's very rarely that we have a day that's odd in isolation, that there are usually a cluster, a grouping of people who experience some very similar but equally odd occurrences. So I'm just putting that out there in case you want to notice that in your own life, that sometimes we don't know because we don't ask, we don't check in with other people. But if you do, and I encourage you to do that, that you will discover that you are generally not alone in your experiences because there's something shifting and rising. And you're, for whatever reason, you're participating in it, or your energy is aligned with whatever that shifting, changing stuff is. Okay, today we're going to talk about two different things. We're going to talk about some of the elements of nighttime dreaming and how to look to your own dreams for some new kinds of layers of interpretation, how you can begin to work with and decode your own symbol systems. And we'll also talk about, I'm going to pick two symbols and go over them in a little bit of detail so you get a feel for how to do that with any symbol or image that may show up in your own dreams, your night dreams. And the other thing that we're going to do is play with, we're going to do some exercises with waking dreams. So we can call them daydreams, we can call them journeys. The way I do journeys and meditations is similar, except we're going to do it quickly, and you can do it with your eyes open. And we're going to do some of those exercises today during the body of the class. We'll take a look at how to create a dream, or how to invite a dream into your nighttime space, but also how to work with the dreaming space when you're fully conscious and awake, the liminal space. Okay, so dreams have layers like lasagnas. They're never just one thing. They have story elements that stack to make different kinds of stories within the body of the story. And sometimes when we wake, they don't make sense, but they do make sense in the context of the dream. So sometimes the only thing that you can bring back from a night dream is an element or two, or an image or two, and the feeling that it gave you, what came with it. So those stories that we have at night are also represented as symbols that show up during the day. And that's one of the things you may have noticed if you played with the exercise to notice things in your environment. What are the first couple of things that call your attention? You'll see that there's a crossover between night dreams and images and synchronicities that show up during the day. All right. Dreams take us beyond the consensual reality, out into the wilds of the creative space within us and around us. It takes us into that sort of unbridled creative zone where anything can happen. And anything can happen, right? Miracles, healings, time travel, meeting with the dead, sometimes meeting famous people, or people that you have an affinity to. You'll come upon them in a dream and have a communication with them, or a chat or a coffee with them like they're your neighbor. And maybe even in that experience you might learn something about them that you later find out is true. So there's some interesting things that can happen there. Now, in the dreaming, we pass through the gates of consciousness into other realities, right? So one of the things I'm going to encourage you to do is that when you wake in the morning and before you go to sleep at night, you actually give a nod to the gatekeeper. Now, you can close your eyes and imagine a gatekeeper. You can sense the gatekeeper. You can invent the gatekeeper. The reason why we're doing this is so that you are conscious of what passes back and forth through that door of awareness, all right? So that giving a little bit of a nod to the gatekeeper, a little bit of respect to the gatekeeper, also is an opening for you to make the request about what comes through those gates. And I said it to you last time, but I'll say it again. This is what I recommend that you say when you wake up, so that you're taking care of your dream gates during the day and right before you fall asleep. It's also good to do it if you're going to journey during the day. You might meditate and sit and say your little phrase to the gatekeeper then as well. So it goes like this. May my doors and gates and paths be open, and my doors and gates and paths between the worlds, and may they be closed to any who would harm me or those I love. So I'll say it again, and you can say it with me or say it after me. May my doors and gates and paths be open, and my doors and gates and paths between the worlds, and may they be closed to any who would harm me or those I love. So be it. So you're making a declaration of what energies can move back and forth between your personal space, your gate space. And that's a good thing. It's a protection. It's also an awareness. It gives you, I think the more you practice that, the more you are aware of even people who come into your sphere during the day. You're probably somewhat aware anyway if somebody feels off or feels wrong. But when you practice this nod to the gatekeeper, you may also get you may get that dial turned up in your awareness so that you become more sensitive to people whose energies or situations that you may walk into where you get that heads up that morning and you can either get away from those people or you don't enter that place, or you stay away from whatever that, maybe a business, a store that you were going to go in. And in any case, I just advise you to pay attention because it gives you a little bit of a leg up when it comes to security in your psychic realms, in your emotional, mental, and psychological space. Now, when we pass into the dreaming, we can do it just as we sit right here. This is what a daydream is, right? When we sit and we idle and we stare out the window and we think about something, we daydream about something that maybe we want to have happen, or we're having a pleasant encounter with somebody we haven't seen in a long time. There are ways to utilize that energy in a way that's creative and constructive and that grows and develops, where you can plant seeds in the dreaming. So when we pass through those gates into other realities, we also leave a little bit of our energy behind, right? It's like breadcrumb trails. We leave a little trail of our energetic signature, let's say it that way. So when somebody we know, or somebody that's passed, or somebody that we're thinking about and reaching out to, crosses paths with us in the between, in our nighttime sleep, or sometimes during the day when we get a sudden flash of someone, that's very often what's happening. We find ourselves resonating in the same space. Think of it this way. Have you ever used a tuning fork? And if you hit the tuning fork, another tuning fork that's tuned to the same frequency will also begin to sing, it'll sound. Or if you play a guitar, when you hit the E, the other E will also sound because it's the same frequency. It's kind of like that. It's this resonant vibration where you're sending out a signal and it is vibrating with the other person, and often that's the circumstance that'll arise right before the person you haven't seen in 5 years calls you, or you run into somebody on the street that you didn't know was in town, or right. So again, this is another way that what happens during night dreams crosses over into our actual waking space. So let's talk a little bit about some dream symbols. Now, I'm going to encourage you not to buy into conventional dream analysis, because again, this is a very, they tend to throw a blanket over something and say, this is what this means in a dream. And it might be what something means for one person, but there are so many different associations that we have on a personal basis with images, with elements, that it's nearly impossible to get the full picture or even a tenth of the picture when we're relying on somebody else's meaning making regarding a symbol or an element. So let's talk about water, for example. If you look up water, as far as dream meaning, dream interpretation, you'll get things about emotion. Now, of course, water does have to do with emotion, but it's such a larger picture than that. So there are questions that you want to take a look at. Suppose you dream about water. Water in itself is highly charged with meaning and mystery, right? We come from the water. Our blood is essentially made of glorified seawater. And though water certainly does relate to emotions, it's just such a small part of what water is about. So think about this. The water in your dream, what does it look like? Is it clear? Is it murky? Can you see to the bottom? Is it still? Is it turbulent? What kind of water is it? Is it a lake? Is it the sea? Is it a stream? Is it a waterfall? Is it a pool? Is it a bathtub? Is it rain? What kind of water is it? And where are you? Are you floating in the water, walking through the water, flying over the water, walking on the water? Are you down deep under the water, exploring something, some other worldly reality? Or are you under the sea, breathing perfectly fine, just exploring what it might be like to live below the surface or be a mermaid, right? Are you in a boat? And if you are in a boat, are you alone on that boat? Are you guiding the boat, or is someone else steering that boat? How do you feel in the water? Does the water feel good? Do you feel afraid? Do you feel like you're suffocating? Do you feel like you can float forever? Do you feel threatened by the water? So here's the thing to take note of. That all of those elements have something to do with the way the water is presenting information to you. It's not one thing. It's a lot of those things, and as they come together in your dream, they tell you a story, okay? So what is the condition of the water? Are you in, on, or under the water? Are you alone? Are you in a boat? How do you feel? And what kind of water is it? Lake, ocean, stream? All of those things, as they come together, give you a deeper understanding of what the water is expressing to you, what role it may be playing in the communication in your dream. So I can give you some examples. I talked to a person who kept having these dreams of ice skating, right? Skating over a very large lake and being afraid that in the middle of the lake, the ice was suddenly going to thin and they were going to fall through, but they couldn't stop. They were compulsively in the dreams skating out to the center of the lake. Again, having that now in the dreams they never did fall through, but the fear was there that they were going to fall through. And it wasn't quite like a nightmare because the beginning of the dream was always freeing and lovely, and this person does not skate, has never ice skated. But that sense of freedom and joy was there, and then along with it that fear. So we talked about that for a bit, and I said, well, what does that remind you of? And what did the ice look like, and how did you feel, and what kind of day was it? And then suddenly this person had an awareness that it wasn't just any lake, that it was a particular lake from near a place they used to go with their family as a child. and there were things going on with the family, with an elder relative. Anyway, there was a family thing going on, and it suddenly occurred to this person that she was afraid that the ice, that the frozen emotion was going to break, and that she was going to fall into the chaos of the family history, of the family story that she had spent a decade extracting herself from. So the fact that in the dream she never did fall through, she stayed on the surface, and she was able to skate around and actually enjoy herself. That's what helped her make the decision to show up, to actually go to the event, the thing that was going on, because she felt she was being given this message that she could skate over the top of the situation, not fall in, not succumb to the drama, and be able to enjoy the process, which is exactly what happened. So she actually initially wasn't going to go, and then after this series of dreams she decided to go and was very glad she did. Okay, so that's one example. And again, yes, in this particular instance it did have to do with emotion. I'll give you a different one. So there's a person who kept dreaming of going to a dock, getting in a boat. She's a little boat, and it was a foggy morning. The sun was just rising, and she was in this little boat crossing this river. And when she first got in the boat, she was full of foreboding and a little afraid, but she knew she couldn't stay on the dock. She knew she didn't have a way home from there. She had to get on the boat. And after 3 or 4 times of having this dream, she said to me, "I think I'm dying." And I said, "What makes you say that?" She said, when I leave the dock, I don't want to leave it, but I feel free. And I'm afraid at first, but as I'm going across the water to the other side, I'm starting to see people there. I saw my dead relatives. I saw my first boyfriend who died. I saw my dog that died. Very, very long story made short, she was in fact being prepared for her own death. She discovered about 6 months later that she had a terminal illness, and she was so grateful for those dreams because she did feel that they prepared her well for crossing, that there was nothing to be afraid of, that she wanted to stay but knew she couldn't, and the farther she got towards the end of her life, the more relief she felt that she could let go, and there would be her friends and loved ones waiting for her on the other side of the river. So again, water, complicated, can deliver many different messages. So just be with water. I have a lot of water dreams, and for me they're always very different. Sometimes I'm swimming in the ocean with sea animals. I often have this dream of a variety of pools, and sometimes they're healing pools, sometimes they're just a place to swim, and almost always in the complex of pools there's one of them that actually opens up onto a live body of water, a lake or a river or the ocean. And I love those dreams, and they always tell me something different. So water, that's a common one. So how does the water speak to you? To ask yourself that question. Maybe you're being told to go with the flow. Maybe you're being told to flow around an obstacle rather than try to go through it. Maybe it has to do with clearing or cleansing or cleaning your body inside and out. Might even have to do with just drinking more water. So you can start with some of the more practical associations and see where that takes you, because sometimes it's not as complicated as we try to make it, okay? So see how the water in the dream can speak to you. And knowing too that water is in itself a portal to other worlds, right? To the mysteries of the deep, to the underworld. It can be a passage to a whole different kind of existence in your dream space, where you discover that there's an underwater city or an underwater alien base, right? There could be something there that you routinely go to in the dream space. Okay, so This is how your symbols begin to reveal themselves to you. Is you sit with the dream and you ask yourself some meaningful questions that allow those layers to begin to reveal themselves. All right, let's talk about the other image. Let's move along here. Babies and children. If you've ever dreamed that you found a baby, or that you were pregnant, or that you were handed an infant, or that somewhere in the dream that you came across a child and you needed to take the child with you or get the child out of there, out of wherever they were, or maybe a child followed you. So let's take a look at that, babies and infants and dreams particularly. And babies can just be babies. Maybe somebody you know is pregnant, of course, that's true. But very often being pregnant in a dream, or having an infant in a dream, or caring for an infant can mean many other things. It can be a creative project that you're trying to give birth to. It can be something new and fragile, maybe a new relationship, maybe a new job. Maybe you're moving into a new home and it's something that you're trying to nurture and take care of. And how you're feeling about that baby might have something to do with action that you need to take in your waking state. So maybe it's about a creative process that wants to move through you, that maybe you're not giving yourself time to do that thing that you love, or to paint that picture, or write that song, or get that book down, right? So there could be a lot of different things that infants and babies and pregnancy and children can mean to you. Now, also, sometimes children show up in dreams because they are your own selves, your own child selves, looking for you to bring them with you into your waking life. Sometimes a child may show up because it's an aspect of you returning to you or looking to be parented by you rather than waiting for the parents that you once had to take care of them. So that's something else that often will occur in a dream. That you might run across a child in a dream, and it might occur to you that the interaction with that child is very much the way you might interact with your own child self if you stumbled upon them in the between space. So consider that possibility as well, that children in dreams might be an aspect of you that you might consider bringing through into your waking world. And how do you do that? Well, when you're in that liminal space, when you wake up from the dream and you think about that child, that's a fine time just to ask in your, again, in that between space, to ask that child to come forward and make itself known to you, to welcome that child into your heart and into your life and say, if there's something you need from me, I'm here for you. And just wait and see what happens. See if you get a sign, a signal, something in your day that maybe it's a symbol of your childhood. Maybe something shows up that's important, that was important to you when you were the age of the child in that dream. And it might not happen, it might be nothing, but when it does happen, it's often remarkable because you can reclaim that energy and you can bring that part of yourself out of the past and back into the moment with you. So 2 different ways to go with that. Again, babies, infants, children. You can look at something new, something creative, something moving through you. You can say to yourself too, well, do I know somebody that's pregnant? Might have something to do with them. You might even find out in a dream that somebody you didn't know was pregnant is pregnant. Sometimes that will happen. Okay. So, let's see. There's plenty of things, plenty of directions we can go. What I want to do is talk a little bit more about the liminal times. When you first lay down to sleep, before you're asleep, but you're in that floating space. And when you wake up, sometimes you can get up to go to the bathroom in the middle of the night, come lay back down, and you're going to be in that floating, that liminal space for quite some time before you go back to sleep. So I would encourage you that instead of letting your mind race and start troubleshooting and thinking about the day, that you actually gather your thoughts and create a daydream. Create a way for you to enter consciously into that dreaming space, that between space, and use it, utilize it. It's a great place to be. That time before sleep and after waking, it's you can visit, deliberately visit, say, a past self or a future self. You might even invite a future self or a parallel self to chat with you about an issue that you're having, or something that you've been trying to shift or manifest or change that you've been having trouble with. You can also use this space to discover things that are going on deep within your body. It can be a time to do some self-scanning, to just utilize that time to go slowly down through your body, check out your energy, see if anything feels off, see if you need a little extra energy somewhere, see if you get a little memo about maybe I should eat more vegetables, or I haven't been drinking enough water, or oh, I think that cheese I've been eating has been upsetting my stomach. That, you might get a little memo that's very practical. But you also might get something that's like, that mole on my arm, I should check that out. That mole on my arm is a little weird. You might get a memo that's a directive to say something might be off here, go get it checked out. That's another way to use that liminal time, is to do a nice body scan. You can also use that liminal time to touch base with other people who you know are having a hard time, people who maybe are sick. You might use that time to imagine them surrounded by light. You might use that time to imagine yourself talking to them in a way that's soothing and comforting. Chances are pretty good, even though they may not remember any of that you're going to have some residual effect. They'll feel your kindness go out to them in the dreaming space, and that's a good thing. Another thing to do in that liminal time is to create, and I think we'll do this a little bit, is to create a pharmacy of healing images, right? So when you're feeling sick, or when you're feeling down, or when you're feeling depleted of energy, if you have on hand a pharmacy of healing images, right, that you have nurtured and built upon, and basically that's exactly what I mean, is when you lay down at night or you wake up in the morning, especially if it's, I don't know, Monday morning and you're not looking forward to the week, lay there for 10 minutes and cultivate some healing images, some calming, soothing, lovely images. The body doesn't know the difference between an image of something and the thing itself, so it's going to change your chemistry for the better. It's going to quiet your brain, cool down your mind, and put you in a more resourceful state. Plus, it will then add to those images, so the next time you do it, you'll have a few more. So what I mean is this. If you wake up before you get out of bed and start thinking about what makes you feel good, you can start with your childhood. Do you have any particularly pleasurable childhood memories? You can dial them up. Oh, I remember a time when I laid under the Christmas tree and looked up at the lights, and I could smell the tree, and there was music playing, and the cat came over and rubbed against me, and just have that memory. That's all there is, just to have the memory, and let that memory run through you, to remember, right? To put the memory back together is to call it into experience, to call the experience into being in the moment in your body. So you're now feeling the way you felt in the moment, because you have, in essence, a part of you has stepped back to that moment and reactivated that experience. So you can then move to, well, what are things that you love to do? Or what are things that make you feel great? Maybe it's sitting under your favorite tree. Maybe you have a memory of playing with a dog. Maybe you have a favorite place in the woods that you like to go and look at the view. Or maybe you suddenly have a memory of the day you looked up and there was an eagle flying not 20 feet above you, and it was just astonishing, and it made you stop and take a breath. Or maybe you think about the time at night when you looked up at the stars and you saw something that you couldn't explain dash across the sky. And again, it was just all your hair stood up, and it was a moment of wonder and awe and a mystery that never did get explained. Or maybe you have a memory of the day that you walked out the door and saw a double rainbow in the sky, and it was so incredibly perfect and bright, all the colors of both rainbows, that you couldn't even move. All you could do was stare at it. And again, what washed over you is this tremendous sense of peace and wonder. You can also have a memory of a time when you sat on somebody's lap that loved you and just felt warm and cuddled and adored. You can not even go to memories. You can create situations in this space. And part of your pharmacy of healing images can be spreading your wings and flying out over your favorite waterway. Or perhaps you can dive down below the ocean and be able to breathe underwater and swim down to the deep and wander around among all of the sea animals on the floor of the ocean. So it's really endless. But the practice itself is so useful. So again, if you're feeling bad or if you're sick and you have this pharmacy of healing images, then you have something to go to that will not only change your state of mind, but it will be a huge boost to your body and to promote healing in your body. One of the things I like to do when I play in this zone is to go to the sacred well, right? I imagine myself going to the healing well and drinking water from the healing well. Sometimes I'm there by myself. Sometimes I go and there's the old well keeper, the old woman who talks to me and lets the bucket down and brings it up and takes her magic silver ladle out of her garment pocket and gives me a drink, and I can feel the energy of that water course through my body, and I can feel myself gaining strength and vitality. Or I go to the healing pool. That's another place I like to visit. I go into this cave, and there's this beautiful warm pool, and I'm just compelled to get in, and I get in the water, and it's the perfect temperature, and I float around, and there's water dripping down the side, and there's plants growing on the wall, and whatever was bothering me is pulled out of me into that water, and it dissolves, and then I get out and I feel better than I ever have. Now, I can tell you, I have used that pharmacy of healing images when I have been actually sick. This past January, I had COVID, and let me tell you, when I couldn't do much but lay there, I used that pharmacy of images, and I had excellent results. I got through it very quickly. I felt much better than people told me I was going to feel, and I was actually able to sleep and to carry on with a minimal amount of difficulty. So I'm just saying, you can use it when you physically feel bad. You can also use it when you mentally, emotionally need a boost or you're exhausted. So that's another thing you can do. Okie dokie. Let's see. In the liminal space, you can also ask for things. You can ask for a dream, right? When you're falling asleep and in that liminal space when you're first waking up, you can reach back down into the dreaming and you can ask for something. You can say, look, I'd like to have a dream that gives me a clue about, or a dream map that helps give me a direction regarding the purpose of my life. Or you can say, I'd like to have a dream that shows me how to remove this block. I feel blocked in this area of my life. I'd like a dream to give me some information about what to do about that. I'm going to read you something. The Jeffrey Eugenides, not sure about that pronunciation, who wrote Middlesex, right? He had a power dream. He was in a bad way. He was stuck. He wasn't finishing the writing. He was running out of money. He had an infant in the house. Things weren't, he was a mess. And he had a power dream in which an owl breathed into his mouth. And he said when the owl breathed into his mouth, he could taste like the metallic, bloody tang that a predator would have in their mouth if they just had eaten. And it wasn't a gross dream, even though it might sound that way to you. He woke filled with energy and had the rest of the story and finished the book Middlesex. Okay, so that's, again, you can ask for a power dream. You can ask for a healing dream, which might end up being a healing experience, right? If there's something going on with you. Oh, goodness. Let's talk about parallels. So I'm going to take you into a very short journey, which will be easy, and you don't have to close your eyes to do it. I would suggest that you have a piece of paper, though, and a pen handy so that you can write down any information that you get. And what we're going to talk about, where we're going to go, is we're going to talk to a parallel self. Now, you can also go to a future self if you prefer, but one or the other, and I'll do the setup for you. So you want to talk to a version of yourself that's living some aspect of your life that you either haven't figured out yet, or you're having a difficult time manifesting, right? So that's what we're going to do. We're going to go meet our self that has whatever that is sorted out, and we're going to ask a few questions, and whatever they tell us, even if it doesn't make any sense whatsoever. So again, I don't want you to interpret the information that you get. Whatever you get, whatever images or thoughts you get, you're just going to write them down and you're going to sit with them for a couple of days, okay? So that's what we're going to do. So think right now about something you'd like a little help with. Okay, got it? Got something? All right, so now what I'm going to have you do is think about a place that you might like to go that's quiet, where you might meet somebody and enjoy a little conversation with them. Maybe a park, maybe a coffee house, wherever that is. Just take a few minutes and think about that place. Imagine yourself there. So imagine yourself in that space. Notice the details a bit. And again, just sit quietly with your piece of paper. Now, imagine that into that space walks a version of you that you recognize as you. You recognize yourself. You note whether it's a future version of you or a parallel version of you. And you're so glad to see them. And you say, I have been trying to sort this out for quite some time, and I know that you got this thing handled. So I'm just going to ask you a couple of questions, okay? And your other self nods, yeah, sure, I'm happy to help you with that. Okay. So now, here's your 3 questions. How did you make that happen? What's something that I can do to get that to happen? Give me one concrete thing I can do. Don't think too hard. In fact, don't think at all. I'm going to keep talking because I want to engage your mind so that your intuition and your dream self can receive the information and write it down. So, on that deeper channel, pick up whatever that image is or that information, whatever your alternate self tells you or suggests to you, and write it down right now. Okay. Now ask this question. Okay, so clearly you have the answers I need. Tell me, how am I getting in my own way? How am I getting in my own way right now that I haven't been able to flush this out or figure this out? What's something I need to know about that? So again, I'm going to keep talking because I don't want you to go into analysis mode or analysis paralysis. Just look at yourself smiling at you and listen to yourself talking and let the images and the words kind of flow through you intuitively, not analytically. And so what is that? How are you shooting yourself in the foot? What might you be doing to get in your own way? What's something that you can do to get out of your own way? Whatever shows up right now, write it down. Okay, good. So now take these answers that you have. I know I said 3 questions, and really we did 2. We're going to get to the 3rd, don't worry. Take these questions that you have, these answers that you have, and just sort of see how they relate, if they have anything to do with each other, if they resonate with you in some way. And again, I'm not encouraging you to make them make sense if they're just odd. You might have, go to the bookstore on 53rd and Grant. Okay. Or you might have, go swimming twice a week. Okay. Because there's something in those answers that if you take the action, if you follow the clues, will bring you into the awareness or awakening that you're looking for. Okay? So don't try to turn it into something else. Go with whatever you were given. All right? So there's one other question I'm going to have you ask your alternate self. So again, before you say goodbye and come back out of that space, first of all, thank your alternate self for showing up. Thank them for showing up. And ask them this question. What about the timing on that thing? What about the timing? What do I need to know about that? Is there something I need to know about that? Tell me about the timing. And again, whatever you get, doesn't matter what it is, write it down. Because timing is weird, right? Sometimes we can want what we want, but it's going to come when it comes. Or sometimes we can just get out of our own way, and the thing we thought was so far away suddenly is right there. So timing is interesting. Just write down whatever you're given. All right, great. So go ahead and embrace your alternate self. And then let the space slowly recede until you're completely just back sitting with your paper and your pen. All right, now that's certainly something you can play with, entering the liminal space when you're wide awake. You can enter the liminal space and daydream. You can enter that liminal space in a meditation, and you can dream up something, dream up a new story for yourself about your life, about the way something goes, about the new job you're going to get, or about you can dream into, if you're going to move, take a look at how you want that place to look, where you want it to be, what do you want the surroundings to look like, and you can dream into that. You can lay the foundation for moving yourself toward what you want by dreaming into it. Okay, so I've given you lots of places to play this week. Take a look at a couple of the repeating images in your dream time. So here are your assignments. Look at a couple of the repeating images that you get in dreams and sit with them. Play the association game. Ask some questions about how those images or those experiences trigger associations, how they speak to you, what information they might bring to you. And again, I'll encourage you to stay away from standardized dream interpretation and to look for how you're being spoken to. What sense do you have of that in a dream? And I will help you with that, okay? If you send me a dream, I will help you work through the decoding process. Also, I said I was going to get a Facebook site put up for us, and the weather was insane and the power was on and off over the weekend. It didn't happen. I'm hoping to get that done. I was hoping to get it done today, and today was crazy day. So tomorrow, so hopefully tomorrow we'll get that done for you. And that's just going to give you access to a Facebook group page You'll need to send me your email address if you want to be added to that page where we can all talk to each other freely and post dreams, and the only people that will be able to see it are the people who have taken this class or are invited to the group. Okay. You of course can also post a dream on the YouTube site if you like, or you can email me, whatever works for you. All right, well, I hope that you've enjoyed today's class. Lots of new information, some things to think about, some places to play. And next time we're going to talk about dream reentry, creating some dreams that shift reality, and we might even talk a little bit about dreaming with the dead. So we'll see where next week takes us, but we're definitely going to move into a little bit deeper territory next week with our dream space and with how to create inside of the dreaming. Until then, may your best dreams come true, and thank you for tuning in today, and I'll see you again soon. Sweet dreams.